Okay, so hello everybody, and welcome to my second video in the series on analyzing Fnatic. So, in the first video, I talked a little bit about Fnatic's playstyle and what they're trying to achieve within the game. In the next two videos, I'm going to look at their games against H2k this week, where they were able to do this very successfully, and against Gambit this week, where they were able to do it a little bit less successfully. And we're going to see how they try to play by looking at in-game examples. And then in the fourth video, I'm going to look a little bit at how you would go about countering this sort of play style, and how the team that stops, how I think that the team that stops Fnatic's 10-0 run at the moment is going to be able to do it. Okay, so let's go and look at this game against Fnatic and H2k. I'm going to be fast forwarding, rather than watching the whole VOD, I'm going to be fast forwarding to key sections because this is going to be quite long, this section. Okay, so let's just go have a quick look and pick some bans here. Sorry, I'll just go and set up my recording. Okay, so let's have a quick look at picks and bans here. So here, there's a lot of target bans in this pick ban phase, so a lot of the supposedly OP picks get through. And this is one of the benefits of Fnatic's deep champion pool, actually, and one of the reasons why I think so many EU teams are getting their bans wrong against Fnatic. Because pretty much everybody in Fnatic can play at least 5 champions at a very high level, except maybe Rainova, who's only really shown 4 in fact. You can't really ban a player out on Fnatic, so what you should be really trying to do is going with banning out a strategy. And this is something which I think that teams in EU have failed to do. That said, I don't dislike H2k's bans here in this game. So I quite like the idea of banning Kalista and banning Azir. And banning Kalista and Azir are... Sorry, Kalista and Azir are very, very strong sort of Baron threat teams. So as we talked about in the last video, it's one of the key reasons that Fnatic are able to exert so much pressure on the map is because of their threat of an early Baron, and by banning Kalista and Azir, they take away this threat. But what I really don't understand is this Riven ban, and I assume it must be something from scrims. The problem that H2k have here is that they give up Sivir, which is a great first pick for any team playing against H2k, who are basically unbeatable when they have the Sivir. But it's really important because Sivir is one of the champions that Fnatic play best at AD carry, and they play it in a different way. They play it as a disengaged champion rather than most teams in the world, in fact, who play Sivir as sort of a champion which they can use to engage early. So in terms of team composition, I think that H2k actually messed this one up pretty badly in Champion Select by not having sort of a suitable counterplan to the Sivir. So if we look at the team composition, it's very clear that Fnatic have sort of a massive advantage. So H2k have a very good sort of early game power spike. They have the Rumble and they have the Corki, sort of spiking hard off one item, off Haunting Guys and Triforce. And Varus has decent poke early. So by contrast, Fnatic's team is looking to scale into the late game. They have 2 tier champions. They have a Ryze and a Jace, who are both looking to stack their tiers in the early game. And in theory, H2k should be able to dominate the early game and use this to snowball an early lead. The problem is that Fnatic have a huge amount of wave clear. So they have Sivir, they have Olaf, they have Jace, and to a certain extent Ryze, who can all clear waves very, very quickly. So even though H2k have the early power advantage, it's going to be very hard to exploit this early game spike around neutral objectives. And H2k tend to not value neutral objectives because they're very happy to trade Dragon, as we talked about in the last video. They're very happy to trade Dragon for towers. But they really want to get the towers, and they want to use this gold to be able to snowball this lead. But they're not going to be able to take towers very easily against this Fnatic team, so they're going to have to be very Dragon focused if they want to go and win this game. They're going to have to use their early game power spikes to secure Dragons and force Fnatic to come and fight them over Dragons. Secondly, so it's going to be hard for them to take neutral objectives. Secondly, there's no way that H2k are going to be able to engage onto Fnatic's team composition without landing a Chains of Corruption, which is one of the hardest skill shots in the game to land. So their main form of engage here is Alistair. So if Alistair goes in with a flash pulverize, the main problem is that Janna can monsoon everyone else on the team away, and besides flash pulverize, they don't really have any sort of hard engage. Sivir and Jace both have speed boosts, so, and of course then there's the Janna passive on W, which means that Fnatic can always run away from this H2k team composition. And they're always going to be able to disengage with Olaf Axes and with those two speed ups. What's more, in the late game, they can use these same speed boosts, the Jace Gate, the Sivir Ultimate, to get into H2k's backline very easily with Ryze and Olaf. And there's no way that a Varus or Corki is going to be able to deal with or kill an Olaf late game. And in a team fight where no one engages, Fnatic's going to win the poke war, because their Sivir and Jace is better at poking than basically Varus and Corgi, especially in the very, very late game. Basically, Jace is the best poke champion that's in this game. So Kog'Maw is of course better, but Kog'Maw isn't in this game. So how is this able to happen in Champion Select? Well, I think H2K make two mistakes in the Champion Select. Firstly, they misunderstand Fnatic's prioritization on Sivir, and once Sivir has been taken, they misunderstand how Fnatic are going to be playing Sivir. So H2K use Sivir to engage into teamfight, and most teams do this too. So this is why when Fnatic first pick Sivir, H2K go for the Rumble and the Alistair, because they assume that Fnatic are going to use the Sivir to teamfight. And Rumble and Alistair are great sort of teamfight champions. What Fnatic actually want to do with the Sivir is they want to use it to disengage, wave clear, and apply map pressure, and sort of trade objectives and target objectives sort of in the 3-4 man group that they like to do, so as I mentioned in the last video. And Sivir, and as Sivir and Kalista are arguably the two best AD carries right now, although in China Jinx and Corki also see quite a lot of play, H2K must have expected this to be the first pick. So the only thing that I can think of is they're hoping to give up the Sivir, hoping to take the Rumble and Alistair, and assume that Fnatic are going to try to team fight this Alistair and Rumble, which Fnatic are far too smart to go and do. So I think they misunderstand how Fnatic are planning to use the Sivir. And then the second mistake is this Varus pick here. And sort of to a lesser extent the Corki pick. So I'm going to talk, so I don't normally spend this long on Champion Select, but I think this is really important for understanding how the game plays out. So I actually don't like Corki into Sivir. Mainly because in lane, Sivir can spell shield the Phosphorus bombs in early laning phase, and this means that Corki isn't able to sort of lane bully, which is one of the reasons you would pick Corki. And Sivir has very good wave clear, so can wave clear through Corki's mid-game power spike to stop Corki's team from pressuring towers and limiting them to use the power spike, the Triforce power spike, which is stronger on Corki than any other champion, to contest neutral objectives. That said, I sort of understand the theory behind the Corki pick here. So they've got Rek'Sai, Alistair, Rumble, who are all early game spiking champions, and by picking the Corki, they're hoping to snowball through the mid-game power spikes before the Corki can get outscaled. However, in theory, the Corki pick works. However, the problem with this particular Corki pick is that it means H2K are very heavy magic damage, so which means that they're going to have to pick an AD carry mid. The problem is that most AD mids are going to struggle versus a Jace and not be able to punish his early tier focused early game. So Jace can duel. So for instance, Jace can duel and poke out a Zed, provided he buys some armor or he takes exhaust before the all-in at level 6. Talon is too all-in focused. Varus is a fine pick, but Corki Varus is not going to output Jace Sivir late game, and they have no way, for instance, to get an Urgot into the enemy team. The one pick that maybe they could have taken is Yasuo, and I'll come to Yasuo in a bit. Okay, but basically the picks that H2K want against this Jace mid are AP champions. They want things like a TF, so that they have a form of hard engage onto this disengage poke composition. They want, or maybe a Kog'Maw, so that they can outpoke the poke team. Or although picking Kog'Maw into Sivir Olaf is slightly scary. or maybe they want, or maybe a Victor. So all of which are magic focus, which they can't pick. Okay, so however, the problem is, again, this is with Fnatic's champion pool. If they want to set up to counter the Jace mid, Fnatic could even possibly move the Jace top. But this is actually okay in the wider scheme of things because it's going to delay the Muramana power spike as top laners get a lot less farm than mid laners, and both Fnatic and H2k really want to lane swap because of how they play the game. And what they really want to do is H2k are going to have to fight this Jace in the early mid game and fight the wave clear from Jace and fight the poke from Jace if they want to win this game. So it's actually okay if they can force the Jace top. It's not the end of the world. Now we can see, so if you imagine going, so the first three picks for Fnatic, so Fnatic have picked up to Jace and H2k have picked up to Corki. So Fnatic immediately, so we can see the problem immediately with H2k's thinking in this champion select when Fnatic take Ryze and Janna. So Fnatic now have a huge amount of disengage, a late game scaling monster in Ryze, and huge amounts of wave clear to stop themselves falling too far behind. And they can do this because it's clear that H2k cannot take a hard engage mid like TF, like Twist of Fate, sorry, without being full AP. And Ryu doesn't sort of play any of the sort of hard engage mids that would be good here, such as Hecarim or ADJ4. Okay, maybe not ADJ4, but I mean Jarvan the Fourth. Sorry, going full Dignitas. But basically, you know, a Hecarim mid would actually be pretty good, but Ryu doesn't play Hecarim mid, so they don't have to worry about something like this. However, once Jace is taken and once they see this Janna and this Ryze, H2k cannot take the Varus. By taking Varus, they set themselves up to play a poke composition. However, their poke composition doesn't have any way to gap close on the Sivir Jace. So, and in the early game, so they can't force the team fights they want to force through this Janna. I mean, they can flash pulverize, but Janna can disengage the flash pulverize. And they've got no way, because Varus is an immobile carry, to escape a Sivir Olaf late game. And their poke is going to do less damage than Fnatic's. So, the right pick here is something which they can use to sort of make picks. So actually, I wouldn't mind a Talon here. So I know that Ryu can play Talon. Although Talon isn't very good in this meta. But the real pick that they want sort of here is Yasuo. So I know Yasuo isn't very good in the metagame at the moment. But it's much better than taking Varus and putting themselves at a massive disadvantage against this Fnatic team composition. Because they can't punish them early and they're going to be outscaled late. So at least Yasuo, with Yasuo they have two knockups. They have the Rek'Sai knockup and they have the Alistar knockup. And they can sort of, this will give them the follow-up that they need from the Alistar knockup. So Alistar can flash pulverize immediately into Yasuo ult, and Janna isn't going to be able to disengage that. So I think they should have picked Yasuo here. Yasuo also being pretty good against, you know, Axes and Jace Poke and Sivir. So I really don't like this Varus pick. I mean, I don't think they should have picked. I think they should have picked another early game AD carry. But once they pick Corki, I think they have to go with like Yasuo or Talon on this last pick. They have to pick some sort of assassin because they can't outpoke this team. And if they don't poke them early, and if they don't get the objectives early, and which, you know, making picks would allow them to do, then they're going to be outscaled. So I think that actually the commentators here, they really like H2k's team composition, but I think this is a massive victory in Champion Select for Fnatic. Provided they don't take stupid team fights during the Corki Power Spike, Corki Triforce Power Spike, Rumble, Haunting Guys Power Spike, and provided they just wave clear at turrets over the 10 minutes when H2k are going to be very strong, it's going to be very hard for them to lose this game, despite the commentators really liking H2k's team composition. And as somebody who's been really impressed by H2k's play and pick ban this season, I was actually really disappointed by what happened in this game, because I was expecting Trolley to have a really good plan for Fnatic, and they didn't. And especially the misunderstanding of this Sivir pick. Like, I mean, I was very disappointed with H2k's play in this game, especially because I've been arguing with many people in China this week that H2k were right up there with Fnatic, and they definitely didn't show it in this game. So anyway, let's go and get into the game, and let's go and analyze this game.
has had it banned away from him somewhat, and his kill participation when he's
So here we see Fnatic immediately setting up for lane swap, and immediately, you know, setting up for a 4v0 lane swap. There. Remember, both H2k and Fnatic really like the lane swap.
Oh, sorry, Reckless.
Oh, Reckless is gonna fake it. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, he's gonna recall now, and he's gonna head up to the top lane, H2k.
They're gonna move into the mid lane and wait for something to show. This is the ultimate fake, because they only saw Reckless. I think H2k is smart enough to read this. They read it perfectly, because they know...
So remember, H2k want a lane swap, so they understand that a lane swap is happening, and I think Crepo's right here. Actually, this is they're very smart by H2k to anticipate this lane swap.
You know it's a fake. H2k is reading this.
Yeah, so it is smart by H2k to anticipate the lane swap.
No, this is so clean by H2k. This is so smart.
Get the lane swap they want.
Fnatic's gonna be surprised. I'm gonna watch the player cam.
Well, I don't know if Fnatic are going to be surprised, but I mean, Fnatic definitely, like H2k definitely understood that a lane swap was going to happen.
H2k to 1, so double jungling of course comes in as well, and it's off to after a moment of hesitation. More or less standard starts from H2k's perspective.
Exactly what
Just one thing here, actually, that I'm going to mention, just in passing.
So they're instantly just invading in because Fnatic is obviously taking the top side here. We see Odo Amna in his Rumble. I think it's been one of his best picks. It's really been a perfect one for H2k, but it's been one where he's been caught out a few times.
That's the only thing you can fault Odo Amna for, is he gets ahead, but then he gets a little greedy. H2k always get a cross-map objective. You see fast 4v0.
So actually, yeah. So normally I disagree with a lot of what the commentators say, but actually I think that this is a good point. I think this is H2k's main weakness this season. Odo Amna getting caught out. That said, this is something which can definitely be worked on and improved come playoffs. So I don't think it's a major problem, but I think it is something that H2k have to work on and have to deliberately work on. There's just one quick thing I want to talk about, which is this Jace buy. So this is a poke mid lane contest, and Jace starts longsword in order to rush his brutalizer or to rush his Muramana. And I don't agree with this. I think that Jace should be starting Flask here because, you know, it's going to come down a lot to poke, and he doesn't want to risk being forced out of lane. But I guess that he understands that that the only reason I can think that you would buy this longsword early is if you anticipate going back to base early in order to pick up a tier very quickly. So I guess it's not completely awful, but I definitely prefer Flask to this start on Jace. But I can understand the arguments both ways. But I think in a poke mirror, especially where Varus is outranging you, you really do want to start Flask.
I just want to point out, Huni, his Rise, that's his lowest KDA across the board.
Yeah, he's been ganked quite a lot, but so goes for every single Rise we have seen, and yet once you hit 2-3 items, you become...
Oops, excuse me, Clap.
Not even 2-3 items, honestly. Once you hit level 6, you can start trading with everyone, and then late game you are still this absolute beast. But what Fnatic can do here is decide to fast push the lane swap and then try and swap back to standard lanes. But if H2k, they can do the same and just keep mirror around it here if they want to keep the swap going and keep denying. Huni obviously this wave up top.
So actually, I think that this is a misunderstanding by Deficia of Fnatic's game plan here. Fnatic want to trade towers early so that they can create a situation where Ryze can be isolated in one part of the map to scale safely, whereas the other four members of Fnatic will use the Sivir level 6 power spike to pressure objectives and engage on H2k's poke team. So actually they want to trade the towers because they want to create a situation where Ryze can farm safely. And they can use the Jason Janna to disengage if things go wrong. So.
Ryu, the axe comes down, Febiven's there, Lou likes to teleport, H2k might have baited this one out, and that's going to be cancelled.
Yeah, good reaction by Odo Amna. He had to teleport in.
So by opening up the map, they create more places where Ryze can basically hide from Rumble until he can scale up.
Good move by Fnatic. They recognize that Huni is their #1 priority in this game. They hand him off to Fleece.
And H2k see the same thing, so they keep Odo Amna on the bot lane and now want to send the duel lane to the top side. See if they can deny a little bit more, but this is something both teams like to do, to try and make the top laners catch up.
Problem is Odo Amna does not have his TP anymore, and he's at threat of being dove. Everybody on HTK side is moving to the top side, so they're getting in.
So this ward here, so I'm just going to pause it. So this is a very smart ward here from Fnatic to stop against a potential counter gank to what they're about to do. So Fnatic can infer where people are on the map because they can infer the AD carry and support the top lane, and well they can't see where these guys are. So they need to know if they're coming bot lane. And this ward here will spot whether Alistair, because if Alistair and Corki are here, Fnatic can't tower dive. They can't realistically get a 3v3 tower dive, especially against an Alistair who's really good against tower dives. So, and it makes sense that H2k would still be topside because H2k don't prioritize Dragon very much. So it makes sense that they would be pushing this tower top. But it's a smart ward because it just guards against that eventuality.
I like this ward here from Fnatic as well in the lane to see if
so that's very smart.
is moving back down to assist Odoamne here. At the moment they know he's alone.
But really this is a mistake by H2k. There's no way Odoamne should be here when no one on his team is nearby. Like there's nobody near here. I mean, where do they think? Where do they think Fnatic are? I mean, it's just really poor by H2k. And in fact, Huni realizes that he's at risk in the same way and teleports away. And of course, Odoamne has no teleport to escape, but he shouldn't even be near the tower. Note the Fnatic slow push before that happens in order to keep him interested in staying. But this is again the Fnatic protecting Huni. So they give him the solo gold here from the tower. They give him the solo EXP from a lot of this in order to get him a gold and EXP advantage. They don't need to give him a gold and EXP advantage over everybody, just over Rumble. So he gets the full 275 gold from that tower, and he gets the EXP from the creep, and then immediately recalls. Because he doesn't need to be super powerful, he just needs to be stronger than Rumble.
But this is the start that H2k wanted with the swap. Fnatic have just taken it from what looked like not their optimal situation. They translated into a dive, they translated into a tower, they've now got themselves a dragon on top of it, and they're looking great to start this game off.
And honestly, I think this goes back to the play in mid where Main overconnected at Axel and Rio and he forced Odoamne's TP, and this puts you behind a move in the chess game because teleports are so crucial for these teams because very rarely do we see them die in lane. Every team play I feel Fnatic gets ahead in the early to mid game involves either the pressure or the actual use of a teleport.
That and also the fact that Fnatic were faster in their play around the top tower, getting the tower down and swapping back to the bottom.
Well, yes, I mean, but that's because so to go and talk about what the commentators are talking about. This is because H2k group again. H2k group is 4, and then have the teleport separately. So this is how all the things are going to be made. This is how all the plays on the map are going to be made.
He's back up in his top lane now. Odoamne is falling behind, but Ryu is going even in the mid lane.
Yeah, and in the game of lane,
so note here that Ryze is ahead in CS, he's ahead in EXP, and more importantly, he's got the tower gold. He's got share of 2 towers gold, and solo gold from one of the towers. So he's a long way ahead of Rumble.
Yes, he's going to take longer to scale, but Odo, he was slowed down so much by this, and you're right, it isn't just the minions' experience, but he's still the level down. Can he really deal, or are they going to need to send up Lulax?
Well, this is one of the reasons also HK picks Rumble, is because they can get in situations like this where your top lane does fall behind and you can still be effective in the mid game. But
okay, so now that Ryze is in a position where he can fight Rumble and he's going to outscale Rumble,
for them, they're going towards the first
Fnatic are going to group now that they've hit the level 6 Sivir power spike.
And then we can start seeing H2k group in the mid game.
And let's go back for a minute and talk about...
And then they're going to apply pressure, and Ryze is only going to be here solo by himself once the rest of his team is applying pressure on the map. And if they don't react to the pressure here, then Fnatic are going to just take objectives on the other side of the map. But what they really want to do is they want to create somewhere for Ryze to farm safely.
They're running a double poke composition. Their double poke members are still in the game, and Odoamne can just provide utility with the equalizer right now. It's just a matter of fact if they can snipe Huni in these fights, and we'll need to see crucial Varus ultimates.
Yeah, especially
and potentially dives on mid lane too.
Especially because one of Rumble's problems is...
The problem is that even if they land a very good Varus ultimate, like, Janna disengage is so good in this matchup. Like, they can't engage even with the Varus ultimate. Because then Janna will disengage, and then if Alistair pulverizes, he'll maybe headbutt one guy into the team at best, but the rest are just going to run away with Sivir and Jace. And that's in the best case scenario. That's if you get perfect Chains of Corruption into a perfect flash pulverizer. So...
a quick look-see, and it appears that Odoamne is about half a level down. So he wants to reach that level 6, that's why he's calling in Lulix in top. However, Janna as Sivir doesn't really do that much. Jace is still scaling. Fnatic can't press home their advantage, and they're allowing H2k to free up a resource to use to go even. But usually, H2k uses those extra resources to get ahead. So in a sense, this is good for Fnatic.
It is, but this is, you know, they had a bit bigger of a lead, right? And you said it yourself that now things have kind of evened up in the lanes. Let's see if Fnatic can translate this around. Rain over Huni coming in. They have their sights.
So this situation here shows how far Rise is ahead, but it's also sort of justification for the Olaf thing, because sort of Olaf is going to outduel most junglers in the early game, provided he can land axes. So this shows why he's so strong. H2k really haven't had a chance to ward because this game's been so hectic and has been rotating. There have been so many rotations so far in this game. So
already 1,000 gold ahead. We praised H2k's macro game, but Fnatic, they take the better out of this early game.
But again, for H2k, right now it's just about wait. Wait for that Trinity Force completed. Wait for Ryu to pick up an item in the mid lane as well. Hopefully also get some cooldown reduction to be shorten the CD, get level 9.
Full Legolas.
So you get the rank 5 of your Q. Miss your ult.
see, this is a really hard, like Chains of Corruption is really hard to land.
All the time.
I think the exception to the rule is actually Varus.
How many
by Yellowstar
have you played? But Yellowstar is narrowly able to avoid what could have been a very rough situation right there. Dragon's going to be up in a minute and a half.
But of course, Olaf is like one of Olaf's weaknesses is that he's generally quite his early ganks aren't that great. You have to land all your axes. But with a Rise snare, you're guaranteed to hit your first axe. So that's
you know
pretty
you
good.
have to wait a certain time, and you might see a free opening of that dragon. You can still go for it. Both coaches sitting down here, enjoying the game. Dalo and Prolly.
Now,
Okay, so I'm just going to pause this situation. Well, no, I'll pause in about 20 seconds.
Probably some false hope. It's like, yeah, you guys are only...
But note here that Rise is freezing. So all H2k are trying to do in the early game, sorry, all Fnatic are trying to do in the early game is to create a situation for their scaling component in their team to farm safely, who's normally their top laner. And here you see the Rise doing it.
11 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
It's been a lead for Fnatic just by the fact that they've gone.
Now normally teams who sort of freeze a lane get punished for it. But the rest of Fnatic's team is so strong at this point in the game, and indeed Olaf is a very strong early game jungler, that the fact that they can group and force objectives means that the other team can't go and punish Rise, because as soon as they send 2 or 3 people to go for Rise, H2k are going to use Sivir to go and win a team fight, or to force an objective, or to take Dragon or something. So they're able to freeze lanes top because of how aggressive they are on the rest of the map. But again, it's proactive defense, aggressive defense. You know, use pressure on the rest of the map to give you time to scale up. So
focus around the dragon here from Fnatic side. Everything is completely warped.
I just want to talk about this a little bit. Okay, so here we are. So this is exactly what I mean by aggressive defense. So you have the Rise freezing top, scaling up. You have a roam of 3 people into the jungle. So you have the AD carry, support, and jungler roaming into the jungle to get the deep wards here, and force pressure away from the scaling Rise. So if H2k try to dive Rise, they're going to lose Dragon or second tier bot turret, because they can easily push this lane up very, very quickly. If they don't do anything, then Rise is going to get to scale up, and this is one of the reasons why Fnatic are so good, because the less risky play is to let the Rise scale up. So that's all there is to say about that.
Had to use that TP as well.
Honestly, I think
the mid lane.
I think H2k could have pushed quicker as well, but they just decided to deny more creeps to Fnatic. And the problem was once they bounced that wave to Huni, H2k tried to do the same, but then Reckless was already there to threaten all the one, and it all goes back to that initial gank in the mid lane.
And also just the fact that, as we highlighted, Fnatic recalled very early from the top lane. They let Huni just kill the tower on his own to move faster down to that bot lane. Now we see
Tempo.
Focus around the dragon here from Fnatic side. Everything is completely warded up. They are ready to fight.
Note that Febiven is ahead on the poke wars, even though Varus has flash.
If Yanin recalls now, Dragon dies instantly, and that's another ult from Ryu.
But they could lose Febiven here as he's forced to flash away. In comes Odo and Lulix. Oh, that damage from the shock blast, but it won't matter as Ryu will take him out. However, H2k are a little low for this one. Fnatic collapsing. In comes the Howling Gale. Ryu's got to flash it.
It's gonna hurt for H2k. Reckless though.
Right around the side. He's gonna find Lulix, and Ryu's gonna find Rainover. Rainover finds him, takes him down. The axe is mightier than the bow. Now Yarnin is gonna get blown up. That's Reckless. That gets the kill.
Okay, so I just wanted to show that fight, and then we're gonna go over this fight. So this fight here, Febiven dies in the fight, but this is actually very smart from Fnatic. So we'll go through why.
BF sword for Reckless.
big spike.
If Yana recalls now,
This is really, really
guys,
smart from
Infinite, that's
Fnatic.
another
Okay,
one from Rio.
so Featherman flashes away. There. Okay, so once Oduwamne flashes here, there is no way that he's going to be able to escape. So as soon as Oduwamne flashes, the TP comes in immediately from Huni. And they trap H2k with the teleport on the mid tower. And they've been prepping, and because they've been prepping Dragon, it means that Featherman has either a clear route to escape, has a clear route to escape this way. But once H2k chase, they're flanked by Rise, and they have no way to escape anymore. So they're basically dead. But even if Oduwamne hadn't flashed, then he simply escapes this way, and safely. Because of where Fnatic know where they are on the map, and they know where the safe spots are on the map. You see, Varus can't escape from an Olaf. It's a really, like, that Varus pick was a really, really poor pick in this game. They should have picked a Yasuo or like even a Talon. Like they just not Varus. And I mean, basically the game's over at this point because H2k cannot really stop Rise scaling anymore. Like Rise has items now. They have one more chance in the game, which is to fight. And sorry, they've lost the first 2 dragons. And remember that the only way that H2k are going to struggle to take. Okay, I'm going to pause it. We'll look at this fight in slow motion. So H2k are going to struggle to take towers because of the wave clear that Fnatic have. Fnatic have taken the first 2 dragons, so they're nowhere in danger of a 5th dragon. And the Corki, sort of the big Corki power spike, the Corki Triforce Rumble Haunting Guys power spike, is only sort of for about 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes. And in that time, H2k are going to take at most 1, maybe 2 dragons. And they've got no real way to force pressure because of their disadvantage in team composition. They've got worse poke and worse engage than Fnatic. And Fnatic are going to be able to wave clear with Sivir, they're going to be able to wave clear with Jace, and there's nothing that Fnatic can do, that H2k can do anymore to force the pressure that they need to force in this fight, in this game, to be able to win. And once this dive happens, the game is basically over. But I'm going to show some more examples in the game. But I'm going to fast forward a little bit through here because I mean the game, like it's basically lost at this point. Note here, there, flash. So he flashes in, and immediately the teleport comes in as soon as the flash happens. And if he doesn't flash, then Jace is going to escape this way or this way. See, immediately they're prepping the dragon. They've started the dragon, but as soon as this happens, immediately they use the Janna passive to come around and they use Sivir. Okay, so you see the Sivir ultimate has just been used here, and the Janna passive, the Janna W passive, which speeds up champions running towards Janna, is going to be used to get them into position here a long time before Alistar and Corki can get anywhere near. So they've used the Sivir passive, they've used the Sivir ultimate, and here they are. And they just engage on the 3 who are all low from the tower dive. And yeah, it's just a well fought fight, and this shows the weakness of the Varus pick. Like, you can't pick Varus into Olaf with this team composition. They have no disengage except for Alistar. So I mean, and Alistar isn't going to do anything versus an Olaf which is ulting and immune to CC. So the game's basically over here. But I'm going to show 2 more things.
Usually H2k don't have to play around dragons because they can take 1 tower, 2 towers, 3 towers.
So Fnatic have a massive lead, but I'm going to show you how they play a very well controlled game in order to avoid throwing, which is something which other teams don't do.
Tempered stuff, that's for sure, Crepo. Let's take a look again at that Dragon and Baron control. Fnatic is the team that is all about these dragons. They're proving it right now, but they're also getting off the back of fights.
Okay, so this is actually very good play. Fnatic know that this teleport is up. Okay, they know that they have teleport disadvantage, but they're using the teleport here to trade for this top tower, because once they know that Rumble is here and Rumble is going to be able to prevent these 2 taking top at the tower. So by going in on the AD carry, if this teleport doesn't happen, Hyanan just dies for nothing. If it does happen, there's a chance that in this 2-for-1 they're going to be able to kill Huni before he manages to get the kill. As it is, they trade 1-for-1. But I mean, even if Fnatic had just killed Rise for nothing, they still get this top tower, so it's still worth it.
carried down.
Yeah, look at the top line here for Fnatic saying...
And H2k no longer have a TP advantage. And just trading your TP advantage for one kill is not really worth it. And especially if you trade your TP advantage for losing a tower, it's definitely not worth it. So.
On the other side of the map. Huni has gone to the point this rise now where you can start doing stuff like this.
And this is Huni in the opening of the show. We said...
Okay, so I'm going to pause here and then I'm going to fast forward a bit. So far we've seen the typical Fnatic early game. Draw early pressure around the map, protect your scaling component, which is the Rise here, and Rise has got through his early game trough and is now strong enough that he can draw multiple members, and Fnatic can use this to take objectives elsewhere. So this is the second part of the split push. So Fnatic normally group to draw pressure away from the scaling component, and now they're going to use the scaling component to draw pressure away from the rest of the team to go and get pressure on the rest of the map. So given that Fnatic heavily outscale, it's going to be almost impossible for H2k to come back. However, I want to point out three things here, and this is why Fnatic are smarter than a lot of the other teams in the West. So Rumble now has his Haunting Guys, Corki has his Triforce, and Varus almost has Brutalizer Manamune, which is his sort of early power spike. So despite Fnatic's huge gold lead here, they know that they outscale, and there's no pressure for them to do anything because they're going to outscale heavily when it gets to the late game. And so they're going to avoid fighting during this power spike, and which is the only way that H2k can realistically get back into the game. And they can do it because they managed to take the early dragon, so there's no dragon pressure on them.
Not that
So
high if you'd expect from the average rise, but he's drawing all the aggro, and this opens up the map for Fnatic to take objectives in the mid lane, in the top lane. When he goes 1-for-1, kill per assist for H2k, but they lose a tower.
We are at the point now though where H2k has to start grouping and has to start using Yanin and Ryu's skill and the poke.
yeah, so all they have to do is just not fight. Despite the fact that they're up 4.2 thousand gold, they just have to avoid fighting.
Into an OAF with 3 kills and a Sivir.
Do you have much of a choice?
No, you don't.
It's hard to say because this is a little bit new territory for H2k. They're usually the team.
They basically okay. So I'm just going to fast forward. They fight once here, which is where they go in and go for. Okay, so they go and contest here and get caught out and give up some kills. Okay, but this is the so here they think they can get a kill. They get a bit greedy. And then they find themselves stuck in a situation where they have to fight. So it's a good chains of corruption which lands here, which is why H2k are able to get kills, because why H2k are able to get kills. Fnatic think that they can take this fight because they can use the Sivir on the hunt, and they can use the Jace acceleration gate to escape here. And that's why they push deep into this area. But a good chains of corruption into equalizer lands, and therefore they're not able to escape, and that's why they give up 2 kills.
Huni is duking it out with Kasing, and the shock blast damage hits him in the face. Huni finishes him off. Kasing now caught up. Rainover running around.
Okay, and here, so they get greedy here. They chase here, and really they should have just taken the 1 kill and run away, because this is Corki. This is a Corki power spike, and Corki is really strong at this point in the game. So they end up giving up 2 kills for 1, but it's easy to understand why it happens. So again, this is Corki being very powerful. So this is a mistake by Fnatic, but it's easy to understand why it happens. And the reason it happens is because they lose a lot of damage because of the equalizer chains of corruption combo, and then rather than disengage, they get a kill. But this is their sort of over-aggression. Once they have 1 kill, they keep chasing, but they can't be punished because of where the waves are. So the only thing so H2k can't really take anything after this because they're all low, and the only thing that they could push is mid lane. Because this wave is too far away and there's nobody on this side of the map. But basically, Gambit don't make this mistake anymore. I'm just going to fast forward through here. And so again, you see we're at the 20-minute mark now, and they haven't fought back. So again, note 5,000 gold lead, 4,500 gold lead, and despite the fact that they have this 4,500 gold lead, they know that H2k are in a power spike, and even though this dragon, this is the really important dragon, this is their 3rd dragon, which will let them engage better, which will let them engage they'll be able to use the speed boost to engage better onto H2k, and if H2k get this, they're going to get a good attack damage, AP power boost. So it's actually a pretty important dragon. They're not fighting. Now this is a really lucky steal. Like, I mean, you can't expect to steal it with an axe, but the important thing is, even though they're in position to fight, they weren't going to fight that, and he just goes for the lucky steal, he gets the lucky steal. But the point is that they're not fighting in the H2k power spike, because this is the only way that H2k can get back into the game. So this is just Fnatic playing well.
Are you serious? There's your dragon control right there.
No, but it's not about dragon control. It's about not fighting. Sorry, so the commentators here make something saying that H2k have very good dragon control. But the thing is, Fnatic don't want to fight for the dragon. They don't want to fight. They can maybe win the fight here, but it's risky. Why would you take the risk? So it's just a misfight. They get a bit lucky, but I mean the thought is right. Go for the lucky axe and don't fight for the dragon.
I can't believe H2k let him do that. How can you let an axe steal a dragon?
They didn't have any vision around the back of the pit. They took that a little hasty.
No, you have a spite. You have a
Okay,
spite.
going to fast forward a little bit here.
Been able to work as fast
Okay,
as
so here we are 8 minutes since the beginning of the power spike. 8 minutes, and they haven't fought. So now they're at the now that Huni has his 2 items, his Serap's Embrace and his Rod of Ages. Now they fight.
Gets the knockup on Huni, but in comes Rainover. Lulex, it's a 2v2, but Yellow Star's around the side. She'll land a little bit of coin. In comes Odo and immediately burst it down.
See, look how
Rainover
powerful
running
Olaf
wild
is
now
at
into
this
the
in this
team.
sort
As
of
he's
team situation.
Ragnarocking, that's gonna be Odo going down. Rainover will pick up another. And H2k a little slow to respond to this one. Monsoon keeping Rainover alive, but the phosphorus bomb finishes him.
Yeah,
off.
so this is really stupid by Huni here. This is just needless aggression here. He goes and fights 1v3 for no real reason. And Huni does do this sometimes. He does make ridiculously aggressive plays, probably because he thinks that because he's completed his 2 core items, he's now very strong. But in reality, his Rod of Ages hasn't scaled up properly yet. And they just need to wait for another 2 or 3 more minutes. But Fnatic only end up giving up a second kill, and now the big Corky power spike is sort of over now. So now they've sort of equalized it.
Fnatic will struggle to get to the back line of H2k. There's a lot of ways for him to keep kind of back.
But that's basically the one sort of mistake that they make. He sort of runs in 1v3. I mean, that's just stupid. Like, I mean, even great players make mistakes sometimes.
I want to talk about how much damage H2k can do once that sides, and you want to just find the enemies roughly where they are. Well on your poke.
So here we see Fnatic being a very good Baron team, setting up to bait Baron for the final fight. Yeah. Remember, because of our team compositions, when we were talking about at the start of this video, H2k have no disengage, except for sort of like Varus ult or like Rumble Equalizer as a disincentive, but they have no real disengage besides sort of the Alistair headbutt. So, and Fnatic have a big speed up composition with Jace and Sivir, so they can catch you if they can catch you up. And H2k know that Fnatic like to do Baron, and they have to face check here, and Fnatic use it as a bait to go and kill them. So you see, so they immediately just kill 2 people and then actually get Baron afterwards.
Will get the finishing blow. 2 quick kills for Fnatic. And they make that brush once again famous for their name.
Make that 3 scrying orbs, the PCO. They face checked and they died.
Now this Baron is the next on the plate for Fnatic. It goes down oh so quick. No response from H2k, even if they wanted to.
And
they've got no power.
I'm just going to fast forward. So sorry for all the fast forwards to this. Like it's not really worth talking that much about the game, because what the interesting thing about this game was in picks bans and in the early game. And here we just see basically Fnatic's composition has now reached its power spike. You've got the Righteous Glory on Olaf, you've got the Sivir speed up, and basically this shows the weaknesses of Fnatic's team composition. So they have Rainover. They don't have anything that can stop Rainover here from running in. He draws all the cooldowns, and then you know how can a Varus escape from an Olaf? You can't. So he does manage to trade the Olaf back, but remember this is a 4v5 fight. Rice has only just come into this fight. And they get the kill, and they're going to win the game. So in this game, we saw Fnatic at their best. So they were pressurizing the map, they giving their scaling component time to scale up, disengaging with Jason Siver, avoiding fighting in H2K's power spike, so I skipped about 8 minutes of Fnatic just wave clearing and not even going for deep wards. So this is when Corki Triforce power spike, Corki Triforce Rumble Haunting Guys, Brutalizer Muramana Varus. So they just avoid fighting for 8 minutes. They had a good strong pick ban, good at fighting in their own power spikes, and great in the lane swap. However, it wasn't flawless, in particularly Huni's over-aggressiveness cost a needless kill at one point, but they weren't punished that much. However, there are weaknesses in their game, and in the third video in this series, I'm going to show how these weaknesses can be exploited as they were in the game against Gambit. Okay, so thank you for watching, and I'll link to the third video here.